All right, guys. So today we're doing a pre-drive inspection. This is not going to be for just the Cayman. This is not even going to be for all Porsche owners. Well, be for all Porsche owners. Also, this includes any car owner. So stay tuned for this. Okay, so let's start off with this. If you're about to get in your car, this doesn't matter if this is a Honda Civic or what it is, but we're going to show you specifically for the Porsche. And you don't want to have any issue when you're out driving it. So there's a bunch of things you need to do before you go, especially if you're driving more than just a few miles. If you're just going across town, it may not be quite so important to do this so regular. If you're going to take a trip that's over 5 or 10 miles to start with or longer, you need to scrutinize all these things. Okay, so to start off with, here's our Cayman. Now, the very first thing you want to do, before even check anything, look at the tires. Do they look low? Well, these 19s, you can't always tell. So what I like to do is have a, quote, top-off air compressor. Something like this. This is the new Makita, 18 volt. This has a digital readout on the top. And even though this is not that good for airing a tire up from dead flat, even though it'll do it, it'll take a while. This is what we call a top-off compressor. So that allows us to go over here, have a digital gauge to check everything, all right? To top off, let a little bit out to level the tires. I use this thing every day here, every single day on all the cars before we do anything at all on any of these cars. This, now if it has digital readout for the air pressure like the Mercedes does, it's not that big of a deal. A lot of the Porsche stuff has that where you can bring up on the cluster, you can check the air in the tires. But for cars that don't have that, like this one didn't come with that. The M5 didn't come with that. It'll tell you if the tire is flat or low, but usually it tells you when it's too late, right? And you're already out driving. You don't want to even leave your house or leave your garage if you have a tire that's low. We've all had tires that have been run low. They could wear on the inside and outside, inside and outside, inside and outside. Prematurely wear overall. And if you ever seen a tire that's been run low over time, the inside of it, when you get it changed, would be full of like shavings, like rubber shavings. It's breaking down the tire, right? So the very next thing I like to do, I like to go by and check everything. Look at the actual car itself. Look at everything on it. Look at all the paint stuff. Just do a 5-second walk around of the car. That way, if you have some damage, you know when it happened, right? If you never look at your car, you don't know. You could have road trash from the road that's caught in your grills. You could have all kinds of stuff in there. If you have a tire that's a little bit low, and usually it's not, don't let it go unchecked. If it's a front tire, you could actually turn your front wheels to the left and you can inspect the tread. Make sure nothing's stuck in it. Especially a car that goes really fast, that'll save your life, right? If you have a tire that read out 7 or 8 pounds low, and usually it's not, and you're going to go out and floor it down the on-ramp in the interstate, be going over 100 miles an hour, well, if it gets low again by the time 30, 40 minutes to an hour went by the time you checked it, the time you drove it, and that tire is down to 20 pounds, you might have a problem. And if it's on the front where you have a problem, it might be a problem you may not live to tell about. So be aware of all that. If you've recently had wheels and tires changed, had anything off, if you're going to go on a bigger trip, get either your battery impact out, get your torque wrench, check your lug nuts. Lug nuts, I have a phobia about lug nuts, especially if somebody put them on that wasn't me, if you know what I mean. And this car had the wheels were balanced, but I watched a guy use a torque wrench on it. I don't think it's going to be an issue with that at all. And that's it. The next thing is, you can probably already see, I keep one of these with me all the time. All right. This car isn't really that bad about that. The only thing this ever has is catalytic converter codes because the catalyst is off. It's always good. It's always good always good to have a scanner with you. Isn't that right, M5? Isn't that right, M5? The M5 knows all about needing a scanner every time you go somewhere in it. This car never has a code to where you have a failure, but it could have little things pop up. If something pops up, turns the check engine light on, you want to be able to plug it up that second. I can one-hand it while I'm driving and plug it up and see what's going on, right? You don't want to drive stuff and not have an issue or don't know what's going on. I'm pretty picky. If you're driving along and you have, let's say you have ABS light come on, you could plug the scanner in and tell you what it is. You don't need a real extravagant scanner for that. A lot of times a $50 scanner, if it does ABS and SRS, just read stuff and reset it. We call that a glove box scanner in the BMW world. Every car should have a glove box scanner. I don't take one with me with this one, but I probably should, because you just never freaking know, right, boys? All right, so the next thing is to check the oil. And Porsches, you could add oil in the back, just like the BMWs, like everything now. You don't have a dipstick. I'm trying to get used to this gimbal, but I tell you what, it's tough sometimes. So in the Porsches, we're going to go in here. We're going to turn the key on. We're going to check the oil. There we go. We're about halfway in between. I think that's about where we filled it up to, if I remember right. I don't think it's actually used any. And there we are with that. So one thing you always want to do. Now, if you have an actual hood, come on, what the hell's going on here? If you have an actual hood, like this hog, you can check the coolant, right? This also has electronic dipstick. You cannot check the oil unless you check it on the dash, right? Unfortunately, in this car, the car has to be running to check it. You can't check it when it's off. And it's got to not only be running for a little bit, but running for a while. Checking the coolant's the next big thing, right? This car is the same way. You could add oil, you could add coolant through the trunk here, but you cannot physically check it. I don't know what I wish Porsche would do, but I think listen to me, no. I wish they would have some kind of dipstick, and there may be something aftermarket to check stuff. Like all the cars with the electronic dipstick, that's cool. Eventually, the level sensor always has problems, and then you don't know, right? So it would be nice, definitely, to double check it with the dipstick. Could you add one to this car? Maybe. We'll look into it, right? Who knows? Check all that. Other than that, the Porsches are pretty good. I mean, on these cars, depends on how big your wheels are. You could actually look in from this angle. A lot of times you can look in from... What the hell's going on here? Come on, gimbal. You can look in from this angle and actually see your brake pads. So, you know, every so often, as I'm walking around it, doing the walk around, I'll just kind of glance in there and look and see how much brake pads left. Don't take anything off. Don't have to do anything at all. On cars like this car, if there's a light out, it'll tell you. On the Mercedes and the BMW, they'll all tell you if the bulbs are out. If you have an American car or a Japanese car, they probably don't do that. In that case, you would do a light check. You do it every so often. Do a headlight check, a tail light check. Blinker's going to blink fast no matter what. Parking lights, things like that. Things that'll get you pulled over for no reason. Okay, and then we'll expand just a little bit here. If you just bought a car, if you haven't driven the car a long time, before you take it anywhere, you want to check the belts, the pulleys. You want to check coolant hoses. You want to jack it up and put it on a lift, check for any kind of oil leakage, coolant drippage. You want to check depends on what it is, the rear diff fluid, the transmission fluid. I usually go above and beyond checking everything. And that's a good habit to get into. That'll save you from having to replace a transmission, or from you having to replace a rear diff because it ran out of fluid. CV axle joint, the boots on those, all your front end pieces. German cars eat up front end pieces. Every car eats up front end pieces pretty quick. So check your tie rods, to check all your control arms, your ball joints, control arm bushings, and things like that. The more you could inspect a potential issue, the better off you're going to be. If it's a car that has known issues at 100K, instead of waiting for the part to fail, go replace the part before it fails, right? And we see that with the Sequoia. It's prone for radiators about every 100K. It's prone for alternators about every 250K. Mine's got 240 on it. I know in the back of my mind, if I don't replace that alternator, it's going to get me. No forewarning, no pre-warning, no anything. You're driving along, the battery light comes on, and it stops charging. Then you're screwed. Then you got about 10 minutes to get back home. And if you're 4 or 5 hours away, you're in trouble, right? You don't want to get anything like that. That's going to be it for today's video, guys. It's going on and on and on. My pre-inspection, my pre-trip inspection, I guess we'll call it, and just general awareness of your car. That's it. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.